What's going on, everybody? It's Chris Classic here, dropping another video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also to subscribe to the C3 Wrestling channel. Today I wanted to talk about when is change a good thing in professional wrestling. Me being a wrestler for 9 years, I've heard things from the older school guys and also the new school guys, and then even fans or people who are diehard promoters or everything like that. And there's a lot of arguments about what's acceptable in professional wrestling and what's unacceptable in professional wrestling. So for the past decades, wrestling has changed from what it was and what it used to be. Some people do not like that. Some people like that. They adapted to the change. So you can even go to Twitter or you can go to YouTube, where a lot of people have a lot of podcasts or whatever like that, and they talk about what they like or what they don't like, or we didn't do it like this back in the day, or well, we do it like this now, and this is what makes us a lot of money. So I wanted to talk about what side of the spectrum I'm on and how I feel things have changed for the better and things that I don't like. Hopefully this isn't a long video, but if not, make sure you put it on the desktop mode. Make sure you got some snacks or something. Here we go. My wrestling name is Chris Classic, but now I'm going by Classic Alpha. And I like that because Classic was old school to me. I love that old school stuff. And I'm talking about not even the stuff at the Attitude Era, because that was actually around the time I started watching, was the WCW, WWE. They had the Attitude Era, WCW had the NWO and everything like that. It was a little bit before the NWO. I don't know the exact timestamp, but that's when I started watching it. But then when I had access to the internet and DVDs, I was watching a lot of the old school stuff. So it meshed well to me. The guy who trained me, he talked about the old school aspect of it, and I respected that. And I was like, okay, well, if I was going to do anything with wrestling, I'm going to pay homage to the older generations before me, especially the ones of color, because a lot of us had it bad back then. So that's my start on how I even had the Classic name. You fast forward now, wrestling has changed even from when I started 9 years ago to even now. With the everything that is current, match quality is a lot different. Match quality has changed. You know, back then, a suplex was a finisher. Now, a suplex is the beginning of a match or during a match or something like that. DDTs were also a finisher once. Now it's a transition move. Now it's a double down move. So things have changed. My take on that: any devastating move could be a finisher to me if it's performed correctly, if it's sold correctly, if there's a story behind it, if everybody involved make it devastating, it can work. I will say that. Now, going to the new school style of wrestling, I saw a match where they were throwing each other outside, they were slamming each other on the turnbuckle, they were doing a whole bunch of moves. And you would think everything top rope based would be the finisher to the show, to the match, but it wasn't. The finish to the match was a knee. Mind you, there were knees that were thrown throughout the match, but I guess that last knee is what take it. So I can kind of understand what the older generation talk about a little bit. Hey, why don't you cover? Why don't you do this? Because nowadays everything is a false finish. Majority. Let me not say everything. I don't want to disrespect. Majority is a lot of false finishes, and it's not even championship matches. It's not even contender matches. It's opening matches. So it's like, oh, I try to hit my finisher, 1-2. Oh, they kick out. And side note, make sure you protect your finisher, because that is a very important thing to do. And you shouldn't just have anybody at each show that you do kick out of your finisher, because it's not going to be believable if somebody follows you. Oh, they're going to kick out of your finisher, and you put all your heart, mind, soul, and spirit into that finisher, and you decided it was going to be that, and then everybody else kicks out of it. Don't do that. Every match does not need to have false finishes, kick out at 2. They don't need to do that. It's okay. You can do a finisher and that's it. If you're having fun, cool, but let's keep the psychology in it, okay? I will say this. I do think matches should be treated a little different if it is the main event, or if it is a contendership match, or maybe a specialty match. I do think that things could tip to the favor, if that makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, when Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, they were promoting the ladder match, a lot of people didn't like that. They were like, nah, that's not how you do a wrestling match. And then when you look at it, it's like still considered one of the greatest matches. But the thing with that was that time period, and they weren't doing it every other month or every other week. You get what I'm saying with this? Like nowadays, you see a lot of cage matches, no DQ matches. Used to be one of my favorite type of match because, especially on the video games, you just grab a chair or a sledgehammer and just hit them, hit them, hit them, hit them. Used to be one of my favorite matches, but now you see it everywhere. And that's not just one company's fault. It's a lot of companies like that. It's a lot of indie companies like that too. Oh, well, you pick the stipulation. If it's anything with a match where somebody's going to pick a stipulation, they're going to always choose cage match or no DQ, aka falls count anywhere, aka no holds bar, aka whatever they want to call Nigerian drum match, if you want to go there. So I can understand. Make these matches, you can make them a little more special. So with the older bookers and promoters and wrestlers, when they are training these guys, they kind of have a bigger burden than what they expected because they look at stuff that's played on NXT, AEW, and WWE, and it's changed. The whole foundation has changed on training and what are you supposed to do. I've seen guys actually feel entitled because they can do the things that Kenny Omega can do. But then when it's time to do something simple, oh, I don't need to do that. That's where the rift is. You know, you can do your own thing, but you can also be respectful at the same time. Also, if you are wrestling for a guy that does like the old school thing, and that's what he wants, you have to give him what he wants. It's not holding you down. It's not watering you down. They're trying to do something, and maybe they're trying to invest in you, and maybe you can eventually go into it with that. Everybody can't do that kind of wrestling. And I've seen a lot of matches that they try to do the false finishes and everything like that, or spot fest, where you're just waiting on the spot. It just does not work. To the credit, there are a few wrestlers and performers that can do both styles. And to me, I think that's what's needed because one company might want you to wrestle one way and then this fresh company might want you to wrestle another. So a lot of the older generation, I will say, you do have to allow change. It might not be what you like. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to change everything, but it's a high demand for a lot of the wrestling that they're doing now. Now, it's up to how you promote it. The biggest debate with the older generation is they're saying that, and they have a valid point, is that they're saying that wrestling isn't what it used to be and the ratings are down. And honestly, this is what we're in here for. We're in here for ratings. We're in here for tickets. So it's like, I can understand what they're saying when wrestling has changed so bad. And maybe if they go back to that old school style of thinking, then maybe we'll sell tickets and wrestling will be good as the attitude there. Cornette believes it's never going to happen again. And honestly, even with that statement, I agree. A lot of these guys can wrestle, but there's no charisma. And I've said that in a previous video when I talked to my coworker. There's no charisma. There's no, I don't want to say attitude, because when we think about the Attitude Era, I don't think about actually wrestling. I just think about the characters. That's something I'm going to talk about too. So I do think that the new generation do need to listen more to the older generation, but also come respectful. Hey, you do it like this, I can do it like this, but I would like to do it how I want to do it. You know, we're all grown, or we're supposed to be, unless you're a kid. You know, we're not going into that. But I do think that giving things a chance could work. I'm doing an intergender show, right? All the matches involve men and women. I've had people say this isn't going to work, or this is stupid, because it was laughable to have intergender matches, or at least one, but now I have 6 of them on the show. Now, I'm going to change that. I'm going to say, I'm going to have a match, I'm going to have a show that's going to change that landscape to being like, oh, okay, you know what you're doing, you care about this business. Because I'm not just trying to do this. Like, this is something, don't get me wrong, it's going to get views because people love intergender wrestling and they love women wrestling. But we're going to do it the right way. I've seen a lot of intergender matches where it's not done right. It's no psychology. It's no theory. It's sexual. Oh, it's this and that. The girl who's like half the size of the guys throwing them around and stuff like that. That's not wrestling to me. That's just like a certain niche. No disrespect to anybody that's done it, but that's just a certain niche to me. So me, it's up to me. It's up to my wrestlers, up to the company to show you guys what a legit intergender wrestling show is. Something that is looked down upon. We're going to do something. We're going to change it. We're going to be revolutionists. We're going to be legendary with that. There's a lot of things about that. You have to show sometimes the older generation what can work. Because this is how they were taught. Hard knocks. They had it way harder than we did. So we have to show it to them to say, hey, maybe this can work. I've seen my booker, my ex-booker, he used to train this guy. This guy is one of the best wrestlers out. Just amazing. And I remember he used to say small things, but then when he performed, my booker would be quiet because he knew what he was talking about. He knew that he has the mind for the business. Now Just Amazing is a trainer on his own company. So we have to be respectful on both sides. Let me just say this. With the older generation, everything is not killing the business. I don't agree that everything is killing the business. I do think the lack of psychology is killing the business. I do think the lack of theory is killing the business. And I do think the oversaturation of everybody doing the same move is killing the business. But I don't think everything that even you can say I do is killing the business. Everything is not killing the business. You know, a lot of people say, okay, because the internet came and everybody got exposed and everybody's using our lingo, which I don't like, but I have to accept because I do it myself. And even the older generation do it too with podcasts and everything that they do, TV shows, reality shows. A lot of people do it now. So you've accepted that because it's a form of income, and you've accepted that because everyone knows what it is. You don't have to sit there and talk to somebody that don't know about wrestling and plead your case about it. You can say, hey, I'm only going to say this much, and then we're not going to go deeper into it. But that's the thing. Every change is not a bad change. Every change is not a good change. So when we think about these kind of things, I just think that let's approach wrestling with respect. I respect wrestling. I respect everybody that came before me. I feel like I'm at this point, even though I'm still learning and still training and trying to be better for myself, I'm trying to help the other people that's coming in too. You got to take your shoes off before you get into the house. This is just what I just wanted to talk about because I do think that wrestling can grow and it can change. But I think with the newer generation, let's talk to the older generation to see how we can get these ratings back. How we can get people to come sit down. And then with the older generation, let's listen to what the newer generation is saying so we can all work together. Because if we're not working together, are we really in here for the business? Don't get me wrong. People are going to have their own ways and they're going to be stuck with it. And that's on them. But if we're supposed to be a locker room, let's get together and let's talk about how we can overcome this. And to be honest, I respect more and agree with more of what the guys before us did. I do. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But I also hear what the newer guys are saying too as well. So that's just my take on it. Change could be good. Change could also be bad. But let's be honest. People train differently. People change as well. So this is just, I feel like this is going to be a never-ending argument, unfortunately. Like I said, I can only do from what my company, like I said, we're changing how people view intergender wrestling. June 12th, by the way. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.